Hey Akshay, welcome to another episode of the Adopted Podcast. I'm so glad to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you. The pleasure is all mine. Thank you for inviting me. Yeah.
So Akshay, I'll start with a quick question. I know you're a product leader at Thoughtspot, and you have worked in Flipkart. And I was looking up your profile, and you've been a product leader for many years. So let me start by a question around product management. So, what core principles guide you when building products users love? How do you approach this?
Yeah. So I think this is one of those questions in product management where we always say it depends. I don't think so. There is any right and wrong answer to this, and there are multiple books written on it. I'll give you only my perspective on what I think are the core three things. So there are three things in my view which are really important. And the first I will start with is that the problem and the relevance of the problem, right? Have you really gone down and identified the problem for the user, which the user really cares about and worries about, right? Um, there's this book written by the Waze founder called "Fall in Love with the Problem and Not the Solution." Right? The whole idea is always figure out is the problem relevant for the user, and the way to check there is that you can ask questions: What will happen if this problem gets solved? Right? Is it high frequency problem? Is it a high magnitude problem? What is the challenge there? And I would say there is also a small nuance in this. The first one is that it's not only about finding the problem, but how you frame the problem is the nuance I will add to this is because a lot of tools you will see are solving a similar problem or a problem area, but their take on the problem is slightly different, which makes a huge difference between how they approach the scenario. So, for example, Sketch versus Figma, both were solving for the designer productivity, right? But they both prioritize slightly different things. Sketch prioritize individual focus and they prioritize collaboration. And just we all see the difference in how the product turns out to be. So I think it's very important as a product to identify continuous. Are you solving the right problem? Framing the problem, is it, and iterating on it till the time it resonates with your users. Yes, this is my problem is very important. Not the solution, but the problem. One of my ex-managers used to say, best solution comes out of from the people who can live with the problem as long as it's possible. Then they actually appreciate it. So that's my first. I always say this. The second is once you have identified the problem, the second one is actually not necessarily on product. That's the whole team gets it is the solution and the simplicity of the solution, right? How simple your solution is, how intuitive, how easier for a user to understand. And when they look at the solution, they immediately understand, yes, this is solving my this problem, is the scenario. And rather than going down to a lot more details around it on user centric and all those, which I'm pretty sure your audience are already aware is, the thing I use to measure it all the time is two questions that, let's say, 6 months along the line, you have iterated a solution, you've given a solution out and rolled it out. Um, why do you think today it will be more successful, right? And why do you think the solution may completely fail? This gives you uh, things to think about the assumptions you have made inherently while designing the solution, which your user might not be aware of, and which are like which will help you mitigate the risks in your scenario, and then you quick back. So that's my scenario. I think a lot of people would have already talked about things, but keep the solution simple and check this. This is again coming from uh, a book by Teresa Torres. And the third one, I think, is the most important one, and this is where a lot of people in the industry, specifically products which have become mature, fail is perseverance. People call it differently, call it iteration. I call it perseverance. And the reason is that it's if you as a PM have figured out that it's a relevant problem and you're solving, are you persistently perseverant to continuously solve it till the time you have solved it for the user? The thing happens in a lot of companies is that there is a problem you identified, you launch a solution, you put a tick box, and you move on to the next shiny object. And that is when it becomes really difficult to develop a user love because nobody else, Rome was not built overnight. It takes time. So the most beautiful products are actually built by the third one, it's perseverant. Either you are perseverant on your solution or you are perseverant in changing and going and redefining the problem. And those are the only mechanisms your solutions are built. So that's my three simple things. Focus on the problem, keep the solution simple, and be perseverant.
Yeah,
That's
love it, love it. Yeah, I think when you think of it that way, right? Like any problem, as long as it's a real problem, if you put smart people on it, they'll figure out a solution. And but you should resist the temptation of moving to the next shiny object, especially in product management. Right? It's you can't chase that. It's better, like Zoom is a good example you gave. It's just one solution, point solution for the longest time, and you go very, very deep if it's a
Yeah.
real problem, right?
Yeah.
That's how they differentiate.
I think in most of these products, when they reach the product market fit, when the founders are working on it, it's simple. They double down on the simple things. As the products start to grow and you have these requests coming in from different directions, there is this feature overload, and you just keep moving from one object and one problem to another problem to another problem, and that just makes it difficult to keep the product simple and complex. So it's perseverance is the problem. It's that there are never V2s of a lot of features which are built in a lot of products, and you all know that. It's out there
Absolutely.
everywhere. I think that's where it just destroys the user's love for the product.
Absolutely. And the moment you get into a different territory, that's again like a 10-year solution, right? Like, yeah, everything, every single time you say yes to something, you're signing up for like many years of work. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Um, cool. And offshoot of that question, Akshay, is now we live in this AI era, right? Where AI is like determining where products go to a large part. So if you look at product managers generally in application companies, how should they think about this, right? Should they worry about AI? Should they worry about like what customers are asking them? Because some customers may not even be asking them for AI functionality today, right? Or should they future-proof themselves?
yeah. I think it's. I will take this question slightly differently, and I paraphrase. What you're hinting as is that how do they manage the balance between what the product already exists and the AI is evolving. And in my view, how I see it, it's all about, I will say something very cliche and I will come back. It's not about managing these different expectations. It's about prioritizing the most relevant user problems all the time. Right. And why it may sound cliche, but it's not, is that with the foundational shifts of technology like AI right now, it's just the market is completely shifting, right? So the problem is that it's not that there is new requirement. It's that we as PMs need to go back to the drawing board and rethink what are the user requirements. I solved a particular user requirement in a traditional way, right? Is that again coming up? Is that checkbox not checked anymore? You have to rethink the whole stack again and then prioritize. It's all about prioritization. It's not about balancing. And whenever we, and the reason I'm saying this is that companies who have tried to balance in the scenarios of foundational shifts of momentums, right? They have generally lost relevance, have not been remained relevant. Yahoo versus Google is a classic example, right? Yahoo for a long time was trying to manage, no, I have an existing business. How do I manage this versus this of a scenario? And at some point in time, just Google took over completely and they just lost relevance. Kodak is another such example, right?
Yeah.
So I do not foresee it to be a scenario of thinking, how do I manage this? But go back to the drawing board and think all the user problems you're solving and say, are there any problems which I can solve differently? These are my top priorities from the top of the product, not the incremental asks which are coming, because this is a foundational shift. And if you do not do it, somebody else will definitely do it for your user.
Hmm.
And like we will lose the scenario. So I think as a PM, at this point in time when AI has come in, what is more important is have a strong point of view,
Hmm.
see where the market is going, where the user is going, validate that very quickly. And once you've figured it out, discuss with your leadership, double down on it, go with force. You will not be able to change everything on day zero, but at least have a transition plan, right? Otherwise, it's like you will build some features on the old stack, something on the new stack, and you'll just keep balancing without even knowing that what you're doing. I would say go back to the drawing board and think from scratch is how I would say it. It's not, for me, it's not a balance.
Yeah. In other words, be married to the problem, not to your current solution, right? And obsess over the problem and figure out what's the best way to solve that
Yeah,
problem in this AI era, right? Like it may not be the current,
100%.
right? Might be
100%.
something entirely different.
The only thing is that those are the dark spots now because a lot of things which we are assuming the problems are solved in the old stack are reoccurring, or people want a different solution of the same problems. They are bored with that, or there are more efficient ways of solving it, right? And that is where the challenge is, that we are not even looking at the things which are like what it's like what your product, what has worked for your product so far with your users may not work in the future. And that's why you need to go back and think about it. So those problems are not even on the table right now, in my personal opinion, when I have been part of discussions.
Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense. So, when you look at these problems, right, user problems, now there's jobs to be done, right, and there's also productivity enhancements. So, how would you look at AI playing a role here? Like, I mean, as a product manager, how you think about it?
And so I think there is no this versus that in the world of AI. AI is like this super genius, intelligent person available to everyone. So it will do both. It will enhance our productivity and it will change the way the jobs are right now. So if we start with productivity, it's already happening, right? I mean, if you take a look at, we all are currently using the summary of online meetings. The meeting of minutes of meetings are coming up, which was very inefficient. We always used to appoint somebody uh, able to draft a clear, crisp communication, so there is no ambiguity in it. Is solving, right? So it's already a lot of productivity. It's like an intelligent genius chief of staff available to each one of us, which doesn't even take a break if you don't want him to take a break. And I think it's not only the productivity. What I have recently observed that it is solving for so many human inefficiencies, which I was unaware of. Taking incorrect meeting notes, forgetting about a point, forgetting about an action point. All this is kind of gone, right? Going to a meeting which is unprepared, trying to speak up something I don't know how will it be perceived. Now there are these hacks available on ChatGPT where you can negotiate and see how my point will be interpreted. How should I do? Role playings are available and stuff. So all these human inefficiencies which were there are going away, which is adding a lot more value where AI is coming in, adding a lot more value. So I think productivity is like already happening. It's just, I think somebody has said it, the future is already here. It's just not evenly distributed right now. So some of us may be seeing it, others will see it soon, is my view. When it comes to the jobs, I think there are both optimistic and pessimistic views there. Some people may say that the jobs will be gone, and I think I see it very differently. I think, and when I say jobs, not human jobs, but the job which I was doing, I think the job was never the goal. The goal was to finish and achieve something, the outcome. And now more and more AI is currently assisting you to achieve that outcome. And soon AI will be the outcome owner, and humans will be the ones who will be just governing and managing and ensuring that outcome happens. So I think the way the definition of the whole job and everything will completely change in the coming environment, and AI is definitely changing it as we speak today. For example, when AI started 1.5, 2 years back, the Chat GPT moment, AI was there before that also, but for all the masses, or for all of us, it started 2 years back. AI was assisting as a writing, right? Now AI is actually writing. It's not an assistant. It was assisting you to edit photos. It is actually creating photos from scratch. We all are living in this moment where all our WhatsApp images are already changed, right? So I think that era is already happening. It's shifting, and we will see it more and more happening in the coming future.
Yeah, no, makes sense. And when you think of SaaS applications, right? And I know you're also you've been in the SaaS world for some time. So SaaS applications traditionally, if I were to put it this way, like they've been workflow applications, right? For the most part, uh, databases or systems of truth or systems of intelligence, but mostly workflow applications.
Hmm.
Where the humans still had to get jobs done. They had to use these tools, but they still had to get jobs done. Do you think that is changing in this context of jobs to be done? If AI takes on the goals and figures out what to do,
Hmm.
how does this balance play out in your mind?
So I think the that is definitely changing. So I am 100% agreed. I think the SaaS app of the future will not be an app. I mean, it will be an AI agent who will do the work for you. And the difference will be is that in most of the scenarios, the humans were responsible to figure out the tool. It was trying to make your job easy in the jobs to be done framework. I think the new era of SaaS apps, SaaS agents, vertical agents, different people are calling them differently, will be the one where agents will learn the business context, will learn on the job. Any SaaS app, SaaS agent doesn't learn on the job, doesn't understand the business context, doesn't evolve. It's like a human who we used to hire earlier. If the humans never used to evolve, or an employee never used to evolve or learn on the job, was not relevant, it will be the same. So I think one of the biggest things which will change is that all these SaaS apps will have to learn and will have intelligence given. They need to learn. The SaaS apps will be static, where we log into those apps will not exist anymore, for sure. The other is that from a jobs to be done framework, they will own the outcomes, right? Humans will mostly govern, as I was just saying earlier, and manage these outcomes. But these agents will be responsible to go and maybe work with other agents and figure out on how to achieve this. I think the jobs to be done framework will evolve to be jobs to be done framework. So jobs to be done framework, sorry, will evolve to be how to get this done by AI, right? So, or outcome jobs to be done framework will evolve to outcome by AI kind of a framework. Those GPT frameworks, apps which would tell, well, not like now people will pay for outcomes, people will look for outcomes. So if you are building a SaaS app, we should assume the scenario. So that's one perspective on how it will evolve. The other perspective, I think, which is angle to think about here, is that the cost of development is drastically reduced, right? And whenever this thing happens, it just changes fundamentally the economics of the scenarios, right? And what I mean by that is that earlier, the SaaS app business model was relying is that let's build a generic app which fits 80% of the market needs. And then customers adopt their needs around that app. Workday, Salesforce, everybody, right? We're building platforms. I think as cost of development is going down, the core differentiator for enterprises will be how they do things. And we will soon enter an industry of tailor-made custom software, which are very specific to my process, my business needs, my scenarios, right? Which are very critical. It's like having these PhD researchers which are critical to LLM. It's that if I lose this talent, I may lose a lot more market share or intelligence. It's that kind of scenarios, and we will enter a world of SaaS, which is very custom. So there are two things which may happen. One is, I think we may go down to custom software development or custom agents. So a lot of these companies may come up. We are already seeing so many new work for AI companies that you tell us and we'll develop a custom agents, startups already coming up. So that is one era which may happen. And I think that is going to happen for very critical things. The other may happen is that some smarter apps may come up with platforms, right? We are seeing lang flows and stuff, but they're still workflow automations. We'll come up with platforms where you can create very custom specific to your needs and evolutions. I think that is going to be significantly higher because the cost of development and maintenance was very high. In last 10, 15 years, we have seen a drop in it. I think that will come back up, in my personal opinion. So one is intelligence, and second is this custom, which is very specific to their customer need, is going to take up the roof.
Very cool. Love that answer. Two key takeaways for me. Like one was every app becomes an agent, right? And I think Satya also talks about it. Satya Nadella. He says apps are basically backend database, will become backend databases, and you'll have agents doing CRUD actions. And these agents are super customized to each customer's needs, right? So they look very different. They behave very different. They give you exactly what you need. So it's like machines adapting to humans versus humans adapting to machines or apps, right? So that's your take on it. So love that.
Yep. Yeah, Vinod Khosla actually said it in one of his recent, I think, talk somewhere, that traditionally humans used to learn computers and stuff, and now agents or robots will learn about humans. Humans will not learn about the machines anymore. That
talk the language you want, they'll behave the way you want, and they'll get stuff done, right? Like jobs done, which matters. Yeah. Cool. So if you just extend the same framework into the BI space, Akshay, and BI is something that's very close to you, and it's a space where when you said everything should be custom delivered, right? First thought that occurred to me in that space was in BI, every user wants their own dashboards, their own reports, right? And this is a big problem for everyone, that you can't build reports in a SaaS app that cater to every single of your users, right? My question to you is this, why isn't this a solved problem yet? And are people solving for it, which is basically converting text into SQL and getting the outcomes that end users want?
A great question. I think you hit the it's a hit the bullet on the dot. Basically, a silver bullet. The thing is that the problem is people want insights, and when it comes to text to SQL, technically text to SQL is just a tip of the iceberg. And technically it's a solved problem. There is no like LMs know how to write SQLs. They can convert any text to SQL. And The problem is very relevant, right? What you mentioned, that everybody wants insights. Everybody wants insights delivered to them, which are relevant to their business and scenario. So if you look at the core of the problem, it's not SQL generation. The core of the problem is following, right? So that I can categorize into four areas. One is First is enterprise data. Enterprise data by definition is very messy, right? There are multiples of tables, hundreds of columns. Each column has thousands of values and all have cryptic names. Most of them don't have descriptions. Um, right? How does LLM make sense? There is no context. That leads me to a second problem, which is context. This is one of the biggest problems. Context is completely missing in most of the data sets, right? It's like even when people hire analysts within their own organizations, for the first time they come and explain this is where the data is, this is what we do in business, this is how this business relates to this data. But that does not, a lot of times this does not exist anywhere, or if it exists, it exists in disparate sources. So it becomes really difficult to get that context to answer the business question the user is, because these both the things have to work in parallel to get an answer, right? That's the first part. Then there is a third portion where the way the LLMs are designed actually is a benefit, but also a small of a challenge, is that LLMs are probabilistic by nature, right? Whereas in the world of insights and data, accuracy is paramount. So what I mean is that in the world of LLMs, if you look at other scenarios, there is always subjective and good enough answers. We can ask a question, it will give an answer. Tomorrow you ask a question the same, it may give a different answer. But both are good enough, they solve their problem. But when it comes to number, you're looking for your revenue, how much units were sold, you're looking for something else. There is only one number. There is no subjectivity to it, which makes it a little more challenging given lack of context, messier data. That those are the top three challenges, and everyone has been trying to solve it. We are also trying to solve it, and I think we are quite ahead. And I will just add a fourth one there, which is verification. Right? Even if all this is there, why can't a user? Why can't you assess the user who can verify? This has been the classic thing which people have been saying. And there are things to think about, is that the user, who's the user here, who's getting the insight? The user is the business user who knows the business, but not the data, not the SQL, right? And in this scenario, it becomes really difficult for a user to verify, is it good enough? Most of the time, what happens is they see the number and they're like, no, my sale was not 250 million. It looks like they should be around 100 million. I don't know what's happening here. Sorry. And they will drop off. So I think those are the four ones, in my opinion, are the big challenges, and different folks are taking a different take on it. I'll just add a proud moment. I think Thoughtspot has solved to a certain extent a lot here, and we're ahead here. But yeah, a lot to be done here. On the more humble side, I think a lot to be done here, and a lot needs to happen before we can fully utilize the potential of the tech available to us now.
Yeah, would love to see that problem solved, because it's a universal problem for everyone, especially when it comes to numbers, right, and getting the right number. Akshay, one last question from my end, and then I have a set of rapid fire questions, if that's okay with you. So in this new world, right, when you have engineers, product managers, designers, and everybody's using AI to improve their own productivity using AI prototyping tools, what do you think, in your view, what's the best way to operate as a team? What should PMs do, designers, engineers?
I think this is very interesting, and the way it's changing. So I think uh, let's see what are the changes which are happening, right? So I think one is we can develop with a lot more speed, right? We don't the development time actually has reduced. So it may lead to two things, in my opinion. One is as teams, as a whole B team or a Scrum team or Agile team, different people call them differently. I think they need to focus more time on strategizing than execution, right? Because uh, just executing a lot more may not add a lot more differentiation. It's how your take is and where you're solving it. The other is, I think, as the speed of development will increase, you can do a lot more iteration, right? And the thing is that the size of the team, in my opinion, will also start to change a little more just because of the speed, right? Because if engineers can execute with that fast speed, uh, in the world of PM, who are always saying that engineers are blockers, I have a big backlog, that will completely change. Now, they can imagine it can be developed. Backlog will be a blocker that we don't have enough backlog to develop. So I think the ratio of PM to Eng at some point in time will start to pivot. Is it 1:8, 1:10? I think that will completely start to pivot because it's just about, because at the job of PM, there is productivity, but as well, but there is, for figuring out jobs, you still have to talk to humans and there are inefficiencies. You're still figuring out human issues and challenges, taking their time.
Yeah, when you say it'll pivot, do you mean it'll come down like from 1:8 today, like to 1:4, 3:4? Because engineers can do jobs.
Uh, Yeah, I think 1:3 or 4 is a good enough number. So that in my head is going to happen. The other change will happen is that PMs will start to prototype. PMs and designers all will start to prototype a lot more. Tools are available. There are so many tools who can write code and quickly prototype and iterate on it. And so I think those, somebody will definitely have a responsibility in the team. Call it a prompt engineer, a prompt PM, who can quickly create a prototype rather than just visualizing in the air and get a consensus on it. And teams will spend more time strategizing, talking to consumers, and worrying about brands. How will my product be perceived? I think that will also be a team's responsibility now. And why will users trust in the world of AI? And how can communicate that trust that let's work with me? So that signaling more than the product will also become one of the art forms in the product development, and somebody will have to take more ownership around it because that signaling will start to make a huge difference. It's tech is becoming less and less of a differentiator, to be honest. It's that signaling, can I trust this product? All these will start to come into play. So those are my few thoughts to think about how things will evolve.
Yeah, awesome. Akshay, great insights. I have a quick rapid fire for you.
Okay.
Um, what's your favorite AI tool right now?
Obviously, Spotter, the one we have developed. So that's my favorite one to get answers to your data questions. But jokes apart, I think coming to the second favorite is Notebook LM. I love the tool. It has helped me read tech papers a lot more easily. Explain me those tech papers. I have created podcasts out of it. So I just love it. It's a great productivity hack for me. Quickly summarize any podcast, get an idea what's happening, or create multiple podcasts, get another podcast. All that is like, it just, I just love the tool.
Nice. You may have answered this question before, but I'll ask again. Apps versus AI agents.
I
Who
think
wins?
agents will rule the world.
Yeah.
Agents, all the way agents.
This is more clearer now, right? Versus like a year ago. So,
Uh,
um, what's one productivity hack that works for you?
so I just mentioned that Notebook LM really helps me read tech papers. It's been some time. So that's one. The other one which I've recently found is, and others may have already known, is this about um, thinking about ideas using LLM or ChatGPT, or thinking about ideas which are bad. Sometimes you have to just think, give me 10 bad ideas, which will help you think better, good ideas. So I think that is a recent hack which I heard from somebody and I tried it. And I just loved it because it just keeps you think, oh, these are all bad ideas. Don't even go in that direction. And these are the reasons why they are bad that help me just expand my thinking. So that's my uh, one of the priority hacks, and the other one is just like a negotiation or role playing. If you're going to for a discussion and you don't know what you will end up with, so what you're trying to communicate and do role play with AI is another one which I really enjoyed right now. It just takes too much time right now.
Yeah,
I just enjoy it. You just lost in it, but those two really help me.
that's interesting. Look at the bad ideas first before you come to the good idea. Um, last question, Akshay? What's one piece of advice you would give for aspiring entrepreneurs in the AI space?
Uh, I will. So my advice will be is two. One is the classic one: focus on the user problem. AI is an enabler. Don't think that AI will just solve all the problems for you, right? Like GitHub Copilot and Cursor are good examples, right? People thought differently, and thought about the user problem very differently, and we all are seeing the results. So I would say focus on the user problem and surrounding ecosystems also. What are the other surrounding problems? Because AI can very quickly even cover the coverage and the whole thing rather than just a niche problem. So I think that's one advice. The second one I would say is, if you're an aspiring entrepreneur, please read about AI. Don't assume it is dependent on engineers if you're not from engineering background. It's very easy to dumb it down and understand the concepts. It's important to now understand the concepts. And it's the best time because it's not technical enough. Nothing is technical enough. You can actually go to AI only and say, please explain me like a fifth grader, and it will explain it to you. I would say it's important if an aspiring entrepreneur learn about AI, read the papers, most pivotal, why it is happening, what's happening. Because if that's the space you're going to play with, it's important to know where you stand. So those are my two pieces of advice.
Absolutely, absolutely. Solve real problems and read a lot about AI before you dive deeper.
Yeah.
Actually, with those words of wisdom, I would say thank you so much for joining the podcast. It was an absolute pleasure hosting you.
Thank you. It was a great talking to you. Thank you. Pleasure was mine. Thanks for-
Thank you.